All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final concurrent session of the day, Economic Software for today's students. Our presenter today is Austin Swack of Hawks Learning. Now, if you have any questions at all during the presentation, please feel free to submit those in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom room screen, and we'll be sure to address all those questions at the end of the talk. Now, we're also giving away 3 $25 Amazon gift cards at the end of this session. So to enter for a chance to win, all you need to do is click the link in the chat to enter your name onto the prize wheel. And on that note, I will go ahead and hand it over to Austin.
Thank you, Shriver, and thank you, attendees. I know it's the end of a long day of learning, and there are a lot of places that you could have chosen to spend your time, and I'm humbled and honored that you're here with me to talk about economic software for today's students. So the game plan, my goal is for you to come away from this session with an understanding of who we are here at Hawks, our course offerings in the economics discipline, how we approach the lesson cycle through the eyes of the student, and finally, some data and analytics on the back end that can help inform your instruction. We'll leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A, and throughout the entire session, I invite you to use that Q&A button at the bottom to ask questions, and then when we get to the end, we'll address some of them. First, who are we here at Hawks? At Hawks, we have 4 core pillars that guide us and are at the heart of what we do. First is service. Let me start with a story. I was a K-12 band director for over a decade, and I used a software solution to help my students record their works and have them in one place for me to evaluate. And I just could not tell you the amount of time I spent troubleshooting my students' technology, their access to the platform. All in all, it almost robbed a lot of the time benefits I was seeking to gain from having a solution like that in place. From this morning's keynote, we understand that instructors are being stretched a lot of different ways. Keynote speaker even mentioned the first responders hat. And we don't want you to have to wear the IT help desk like I did when I was in the classroom. That's why we have an 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. phone line Monday through Friday, where students and instructors can call in to get live support, where you'll get a human being in under 4 rings. Outside of those times, or if you or your students prefer, we also have a 24/7 live chat staffed by actual human beings, where you'll get a response in under a minute. And we also have a dedicated team of training and support representatives to help support you as you get your course set up and offer free and unlimited support and training throughout the semester and throughout your time using Hawks. We are a lot of different educators on the team. I'm one. There's educators on almost every team here at Hawks, and we love having the conversations when an instructor comes to us and says, I want to do something unique with my class. Here's what I have in mind. Can you help? And we love taking those visions and using our course or using our platform to turn those visions into reality. Our second pillar is affordability. Watching the news, it's no secret that the cost of education are rising. With student loan forgiveness in the news in front of the Supreme Court, it's something that's at the front of everyone's mind. That's why we have a lot of different purchasing options, and we'll be happy to work with you to find the option that best fit you and your students' needs. And we also provide lifetime access to our courseware, meaning if you have a student enrolled in your class, then their advisor tells them, hey, you have to take a different class during this time span, they wind up withdrawing, they'll still be able to use our materials whenever they come back. Or if they're in those higher level classes, they'll be able to reference the materials long after they're done with your course so that they can further their learning and remember those fundamental foundational concepts. Our third priority is adaptability. We know, because we're a team of educators, that there is no such thing as 2 classes that look the exact same. Every student population needs different levels of support, and every instructor has a different delivery style. That's why we built the platform with adaptability in mind, allowing us to customize the content, customize the delivery, customize the structure to fit how you want to deliver class and how you best operate. And then our final pillar is mastery. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart as a music educator. When I was working with students towards a big performance, I would often have them come in before that big performance and play some of the songs for me. And I would never look at the student after they've missed half the notes and go, well, good luck at the performance next week. I would give them feedback, tell them to go back and practice and to come see me again. And we have taken that same mastery-based pedagogy, that same competency-based education principles, and built a courseware platform that takes all of that and has it forefront of mind. Everything is designed with those principles front of mind. Let's look at a little feedback. So here are a set of quotes from instructor and students alike. Here's an instructor quote. The motivational approach to Hawks is real. I work with a lot of students who come from the inner city with the mindset that they're not good at math. I teach statistics with Hawks and have seen this mindset shift among students in stat classes. Students come in and have support and learn and practice, and then the adaptive components of Certify gives custom questions for students to work through to be successful. Knowing if they spend time on these concepts, students will reach mastery and get full credit for homework, prompting them to continue to put in the work for success. I have seen more students pass my classes in the years I've done stats with Hawks. Now, in my estimation, this doesn't just speak to the content quality, but speaks to the integrity and efficacy of the pedagogical approach. This really ties into that mastery pillar, that mastery that we value so much here at Hawks. For some student feedback, one student from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, tells us, the practice tab really helps me sharpen my skills if I'm still unsure on what I'm currently learning. If I come out of class asking myself, what just happened? I know I can go into the practice tab, or if I understand everything, I can still use the practice tab to know what type of problems to expect to be able to certify. I think this really speaks to the adaptability of our courseware. And earlier I used the adaptability to talk about the entire overall course structure on a very macro level, but I think this speaks to that same principle playing itself out at the micro level. We have students with agency, with voice, with a little autonomy in how they approach the lesson cycle, and they get to determine how much support they need on the road to mastery. Student at Ohio University tells us, this is the easiest platform that I've worked on. It's super easy to input your answer and gives you very clear and helpful feedback if incorrect. It doesn't just say you're wrong and move on. You get a detailed reason why and the correct answer. The learning part is really easy to follow and take notes on. I think that's just the integrity of the learning process and how the materials are set up to help students be successful. Because overall, that's the goal. And we talked about the affordability and the adaptability of our purchasing models. You'll notice in every purchasing model we have, whether it's from the bookstore, from us, or via an inclusive access provider, we are able to provide students with access to course content on the first day. We have 20 days of temporary access, and that is a useful tool for when students are waiting for that financial aid package to come in or for student business services to update accounts. Of course, with inclusive access, those course materials are included in tuition, so students are not going to have to worry about access codes or anything. I hear all the time about struggles with bookstores selling the wrong access code, with students having trouble inputting that, and those are all hurdles that we've largely eliminated here at Hawks. We've received rave reviews about how easy it is to get up and running and get all the students up to date in the courseware. Just a reminder before I move on to our economics course offerings that we do have that Q&A button at the bottom, and at any time during today's session, if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in that Q&A box. So all of our economics content shares some lessons. I've heard from many economics instructors that students come into their intro classes, their principles classes, without the fundamental mathematics skills. to be effective. I had an instructor last week just tell me, if my students came into class understanding PEMDAS, my first couple of weeks of class would be totally different. That's why we included a Chapter 0 math review, along with a math review diagnostic to help address those concerns. What the diagnostic does is gives each student in the class an individualized homework path to help patch up some of those knowledge gaps and holes that might prevent them from understanding the actual economics content fully. You'll see the selection of content in the math review here on the slide. And there are also 7 chapters that are shared in both our Principles of Micro and Principles of Macro titles. Speaking of those 2 titles, just a small outline of what the table of contents looks like. I think you'll find it's very standard fare for what you would expect a macro and micro text to be. And we also have a Principles of Economics text, which combines the chapters from Principles of Micro and Principles of Macro to be in one cohesive package. This is great for those institutions where students typically take both courses. It allows just another avenue for them to save costs by taking advantage of that lifetime access that we offer. That particular course is software only, just owing to the fact that a book with over 40 chapters in it would just be massive. It would be a workout getting from class to home and back again. The materials also include chapter projects that seek to take the concepts from the book and make them relevant and applicable in students' lives. So the chapter 3 project about supply and demand, actually we'll talk a little bit about concert tickets, which is something I bet students have a lot of familiarity and thoughts about. We also have a guided notebook resource, which is a physical notebook that helps guide note-taking and prompt students to immediately apply what they're learning. When I was in school, I remember my professors would turn their back to me, write on the chalkboard for 50 minutes, and I was left to determine what got written down in my notebook. And I know just from my experience as an educator myself that students will do one of 2 things. They'll either write nothing down or they'll write everything down, both of which are equally useful when it comes to reviewing materials for tests and quizzes. So we've provided this resource to help guide students' thought process through the content. And we've even included some macroeconomics in U, microeconomics in U, again, more of those places where students really get to contextualize the content you're talking about in class and make it real to them in their lives. All right, so let's move on real quick and take a look at what the actual courseware looks like when students log in. If I were to log in through our Hawks Learning website or take advantage of our LMS synchronization, we integrate with Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, Brightspace, and Moodle. So when I take advantage of that LMS sync or I log in, I'm presented with my dashboard here. And I hope the first thing that you notice is everything is really thoughtfully and clearly laid out so that students know instantly where to go and what's important. We'll tour through the interface real quick. The top buttons do exactly what they say they're going to do. You have grades, ebook, discussions, my notification bell to remind me that items are due today. But I really want to point your attention to this envelope, our messages portal, message center. When I taught and I used that software system, I would often have assignments due on Fridays. Students are what students are. So Saturday, I would wait for the late assignments to trickle in. Then I would take my computer, sit on the couch on Sunday, watch the NFL game, and write individual emails to each student who did not turn their assignment in. And let me tell you, that took a ton of time. We created automated messaging reminders to have a pre-filled out template that automatically gets sent to students. It looks like it came from you, and that it can be customized to be sent before an assignment is due, after it's due, both. You can customize what the message says. It's really one of those many ways that we try to take work off of your plate so that you can focus on what's really important, the content and how the students are interacting with that content. On this drop-down menu here, we want to take a little bit of friction away from how students receive help. If you have too many steps in the process, students aren't going to go through the work to get that help. So right here in this drop-down menu, I can access the support center. I can look at training videos, or I can access that 24/7 live chat straight from my portal. Our phone number is also printed at the bottom of the hawkslearning.com website, and students are welcome to call in during that 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Monday through Friday window, where they're going to get a live human in less than 4 rings to help them through whatever problems they're having. Going into the course here, I have my assignments. You can see some of the lessons from the Chapter 0 math review, and you can even see over here the Chapter 0 math diagnostic. Everything is default laid out by chronological order, so I do today, do within a week, do later. But in the support of that adaptability piece that I talked about earlier, almost everything that we're going to go through today is highly customizable. You can make this do whatever you need it to do to support your class outcomes. If you want to organize lessons by exam, by topic, you're free to do that. So let's jump into a lesson. Every lesson follows the same 3-mode learning path of learn, practice, and certify. And you probably remember back from the quotes that both the instructors and the students reference those modes. So if I were to use the analogy of how I taught in the music classroom, this would all be in preparation for a big performance. For you, it'd be a big quiz or a big test, high stakes assessment. First, I would teach my students the notes and rhythms required to be able to play the piece. And then I would give students the opportunity to practice on their own and use whatever tools they needed to be able to build their skills and build their understanding. And then before that big assessment piece, they would come in and demonstrate or certify to me that they have mastered the content. If so, great, we're on track to have a great performance. But if not, that's fine. They would get some feedback, be sent to go practice again, and then they would come back and try and demonstrate mastery of that skill again. And we would continue through this process until we got to our shared goal of success at the performance. And we think here at Hawks that that basic pedagogical plan is applicable to all disciplines. And so let me show you how it works in economics. Learn mode is an interactive, multimedia enriched version of our text materials. It is designed with the web in mind. So what you're not going to see is a clunky ebook that is just a straight copy paste of the physical book, where you have sentences at the end of a page that breaks and the pages don't make any sense. It's 2023. We don't need to have books like that anymore. So you'll see that the pages are right here, and they just chunk the content in a very meaningful, very applicable way. You may have noticed that we are a verified Quizlet creator. With courses like these principles courses, students really struggle sometimes with all of the new vocabulary they have to learn. And so we have provided pre-made flashcards for students to review and study, and we embedded that right inside of the learning modules, so students don't have to go very far to find that vocabulary support. You'll see that there are further resources, helpful hints you'll see later, group activities. There's the helpful hint there. Group activity, easy to read graphics. But what I really, really like is this feature called Learn Screen Notes. So what you're seeing here is the top half of the screen is the content from the book. This is the content from the learning materials. But the bottom half allows you, the instructor, to be able to replace pages, hide pages, or add content below the page just like this. You can embed YouTube videos, you can embed statistical analysis, you can do all sorts of things. It has an HTML backend, so you can really get into the nitty-gritty and do some really amazing stuff with this customization. That's all in service of the adaptability component, where you can really make the course your own and make it suit your learners. And that also ties into our service and our support piece, because like I said, we have a team of dedicated training and support representatives who can help transform your vision, your ideas into a reality, because we certainly don't expect every instructor who comes in to be proficient in HTML, but we certainly have some people on our team that can help you out with that, and we'd be happy to do so. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that everything that you see in the learning materials is WCAG 2.0 AA compliant and meet accessibility standards. So learners, regardless of their accommodation, will be able to experience the learning materials in a meaningful way. Your students who just prefer alternate learning modalities, like you may have some students that prefer to read, we have provided these lesson level and example level videos to help those students who prefer to watch or hear the content. So here is my lesson level video. Most of them are under 10 minutes, lecture style overview. And then this is a example level overview where it has an actual instructor working through the problem that appears in the book if they want to see that extra support and hear it. Again, trying to serve students from all different modalities with all different preferences. The practice mode presents students with a set of practice questions to help prepare them for that eventual certification. And you're going to see when I pop into this practice mode that I have a suite of learning tools here at the bottom of the screen to help guide me through that experience. So the first thing I can do is I can skip problems. Second thing I can do is try similar. So you'll notice this question here is going to change out as I hit the try similar button. The questions have up to 50 different permutations so that students have a different experience every time they come into practice. If I'm a basketball player and I hit one free throw, I'm not ready to go to the NBA yet. I need to repeat that effort to make sure I have thoroughly mastered the content. So we provide students the opportunity to have multiple attempts at a single question type, even if they get it right. Now, this question is asking about substitutes and complements. And for a student who's brand new to the vocabulary, brand new to the discipline, it might be really easy to mix those items up. I know the definitions of the two terms, but I can't remember which is which. Class was at 8 a.m. I was 15 minutes late. I'm 18, 19 years old. I kind of don't know what's going on in the world. So I can reference this tutor, and the tutor is going to give me the substitute and complement definitions and a little bit of a hint in the right to help point me in the right direction. And then I get a question to help guide my thinking. Now, if I want to go a little further than that, I can reference the learn mode. I can reference those learning materials, those videos. Or I can just look at the solution. And I get an explanation of not only what the correct answer is, but why it's correct. Then I can go back to practice, use my try similar button, and see if I actually learned that with a new question, with a new pair of items. And so for me as a student, that allows the adaptability for me to be able to choose how much support do I need? Do I need a little hint? Or do I need to just see the answer and be able to come back in and try that again now that I've seen it work through and I've seen the logic happen once? Now, suppose I face the following market for coffee and the price of soda increases. I'm being asked to graph the changes in the market and plot a new equilibrium point. So I can come down here and you'll notice that my curves will highlight as I mouse over them. And I can actually grab my demand curve over here and shift it to the left. I'm just going to go and plot a new equilibrium point. And some of you are probably yelling at your computer screen right now. I can hear you in my head. I'm going to submit answer, and to no one's surprise, I am wrong. We have a team of educators here at Hawks, and we work with contributors across the nation, leaning on their years of classroom experience to diagnose and anticipate the common problems that students face. And what that looks like is when I click this explain error button, I'm going to get specific feedback as to what part of my answer was incorrect. So it's not just going to tell me that I'm right and wrong. Everyone can do that in 2023. So it tells me my answer is incorrect because I found the demand decreased. Coffee is a substitute for soda, which means that people will consume coffee instead of soda. This factor does indeed have an effect on demand, but will not cause demand to decrease. So it's the same type of feedback that if I were an instructor, I hope my students would get from me or a TA. Now, again, I can reference a step-by-step explanation. I can go to learn the solution. So again, I get that adaptability. I get that agency, that autonomy to decide how much support do I need. Is that enough? Can I shift the right curve now? I can come back to practice, try similar, and I get a new market, and I get a new change in that market to help test my understanding. The reason we did this is because in the traditional worksheet model of delivering instruction, if you give me a worksheet, I complete it and turn it back in. If I have one of these common misconceptions, by the time you take a look at my work, you've done it wrong 15, 20, 30 times. And by that time, those common misconceptions are ingrained in your long-term memory. And you as instructors know how difficult it can be to reverse that process. So we want to provide the same type of feedback you would expect your students to get from you in real time, right in the moment that the student makes the mistake, so that these common misconceptions aren't embedded in a student's long-term memory. So that immediate, instant, just-in-time feedback, I think, is a really important feature of the practice mode. And then that brings us to Certify, which is the mastery-based, credit-bearing homework portion of the learning path of the lessons cycle. So I'm going to come in, and the first thing you're going to notice is it looks almost the exact same. That's on purpose. The purpose of practice is to prepare students to certify. But the first thing you should notice is completely different is all of my learning aids are gone. Meaning I have to prove to you and myself that I can master the content without those tools, without the hints, without the explain error, without the solutions, without being able to skip or try similar until I find a version of the problem that I want to answer. This is what I get. Now, the goal of this assignment is to answer a problem set, in this case, 10 questions, completely customizable, at a defined mastery level, default 80%, again, customizable, which gives me 2 strikes. On my 3rd strike, or when I hit 0 lives in this heart here, I will leave the homework attempt, go back to practice, where I will see questions that are based off of my misses here in Certify. So what's that's saying is, if you're playing a song for me and you miss a bunch of notes, I'm going to stop you at some point and go, hey, let's practice XYZ. Go back and try it on your own. And I want you to come back and play the song for me again. And so we have provided this safe, low stakes, penalty-free environment for students to learn from their mistakes, because they know that they're always going to have the opportunity to be successful. Whenever they come into Certify and get to that mastery threshold of 80%, they get full credit, whether it's the first time or the 10th try. And if they happen to be less than that mastery level, that's not a problem, because they're going to go back to practice on the back end and have those support tools available to them to help remediate them and help get them back on the path to mastery. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show in the student side before we jump over and take a look at some data is, if you ever have students who go, I just don't know what to study. Like, what's going to be really important in this test? Well, here's a way for me to get that data and get that information myself. I can go to practice web tests. I can come here to practice exam 1, and let's look at the chapter we were already in. And I want 10 questions from those 4 lessons. And I know that I'm going to have 30 minutes on my test day to do it. And what the courseware is going to do is generate a practice test for me. It's going to look the exact same as it would for the test that you make. I have my timer here that I can hide if that gives me a little bit of anxiety. In this mode, I can navigate through the questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and click into here. And then we'll just go ahead and submit. And then I, as the student, will get some data back over my performance on the lesson. So if we were to pretend for a second the gray was green questions I answered right, I would see that I probably don't need to study 3.2 or 3.4, but the other two lessons I missed a question in, and I actually missed half the questions in 3.3. So I can just click here and be brought to a practice session where I can practice through those skills, through those domains that I was less than proficient at in my practice test. So again, just another way for students to have some agency in their own learning path and take some accountability. So that's the 30,000-foot overview of the student side. We are nearing the last 15 or so minutes today. So I just want to encourage you, if you have any questions at all as I start to go through the instructor side, please use that Q&A box and we'll be happy to answer everything as we get to the end of today's session. So as you see, this is the instructor view of the Hawks platform. One of my favorite features is I can freely switch between the instructor and student side. So as I'm building out the course, I can take a look and click here, take a look at what the students are actually going to see as they navigate through the content. So let's do a little thought experiment here. Maybe not a thought experiment, maybe just a demonstration rather. But let's see if I had a course shell already set up for me by a coordinator, and maybe I was an adjunct or junior faculty member, how long would it take to get me up and running here in Hawks? All right, so let's start. So I'm going to count the number of clicks it takes. 1 click to get into the gradebook, 2, 3. Then I add a new section with my 4th click. We'll name it IES 2023. And I come over here. I do 2 more clicks. I believe that's 4 and 5 to get this shell that has already been created by a course coordinator set up. And I'm going to look all that. I confirmed it. And then with my 8th click, I believe, save changes. And I am up and running. I have my course shell set up, my assignments are done, and I'm good to go. Now, if I'm the course coordinator, there's only one more thing that I actually need to do to be up and running to set the shell up, and that would be to assign my lessons. So I come over here to assignments, where I would assign my lessons, my due dates. Now, everything you're going to see here is done with templates in mind. And the reason we've done that is so that you only need rather to do the work once. You set up your template and then you have it available for any other sections, any other instructors, or for use in subsequent semesters. So you'll see I have a template applied to this called Fall 2022. Well, it's no longer the Fall of 2022. So let's click into it. And to assign a lesson, you'll see all I need to do is just select the date, and then the lesson is assigned. But let's say I have an old semester here, or I can even use this if I have a snow day or some other event has closed school. I'm in Ohio, so we had a snow day or a snow event earlier in the week. I just come in, shift multiple due dates. We can go to this August 22nd date here, and let's just shift it all over to January. So every due date on or after the 22nd will be shifted by 147 days. And now you'll see everything got shifted here. And then the date I set today just got shifted even more. So I can just come back and change it. And that's how easy it is to get everything up and running. And the students will only see the lessons that have been assigned to them. Now you can go even deeper in by setting prerequisites or showing additional options. So what we really strove to create was this platform that could get you up and running in as few as 8 clicks, while also providing an avenue for you to really customize and curate the content of the course to meet your exact needs. So I'm going to go ahead and not save here. Now, if you were to want to curate a custom experience in the lessons, I could come down here to curriculum, look at my lesson, and I can change my mastery level of any individual lesson. I can change them all at the same time. I can require my students to certify or to practice rather. I can require them to practice before they certify, or I can just pop into a lesson and edit the default assignment that they see in Certify. We provide default assignments, but you are welcome to change them to fit your learners' needs. So what you're seeing here on the right side is my default assignment. And on the left side is the question bank, and I can freely come in and remove questions. I can add questions however I want. I can look at all the questions in a particular chapter. I can even pull questions in from different chapters and take a look at all the different versions of questions that we have there. Now, the last thing I want to show you, and I'll have to pop over to another gradebook to do so, is our reporting functionality. So now that students have done all the work, what are you going to be able to see on the back end of it? So we have some key reports right here, but chances are if you want an insight into a particular aspect of student engagement or performance, we have a report for it through all of these down here. First report is the all student scores report. For me, that's the traditional gradebook view where I can see students' overall grades. And then I can even expand it out to look at grades by each lesson, by what their submissions are. So I can look here, I can edit individual scores, edit due dates, and I can even look at each student's individual attempt on each assignment. If I have a student coming in for office hours, I can actually look at all of that data for just one student, get a snapshot of just that student with our detailed student grades. I can filter my gradebook if I don't want to look through all the checks. I just want to find who are the students I need to help. So I have a couple of filters saved here. My need to help filter identifies all of my students with a B or a C rather, under a B, a C or failing that haven't logged in 5 days. So I find that I have one student that meets that criteria. So I can just click that and go ahead and send them a message. The last report we have is this assignment reviewer. This gives me a snapshot of student performance in the class. I can see who has done, I can see which assignments have been done and not done. And I can take a look at the average time throughout the class spent in learn, practice, and certify. And I can even come in and get a detailed snapshot on a per student basis of how long each student has spent in learn, practice, and certify, how many attempts they've done, when they've done those attempts. And that I can use that data to really facilitate discussions to help those students out. So I might see that Eric has tried 4 times. These are all fake student names and fake student data because we are completely FERPA compliant here at Hawks. But I see that Eric here has attempted 4 times, has not learned anything in the ebook, has not practiced anything in practice, only spent 13 minutes in certify. So I can have that conversation with Eric that we might want to reevaluate our process and how we're approaching the lesson instead of just trying certify 4 times. If I see that student here has 2 attempts, I can actually pop in and take a look at each individual attempt, where I can track what individual questions they worked on and how long they spent on each individual question. So I get a really detailed view into that one particular student's performance on any given lesson. So one last thing to show you. I have my analytics here. So for each lesson, I can view a detailed set of data on the performance on each item in the lesson. So I can even pop this out and take a look at an example question. I think what you'll notice about this is there are no personally identifying information, none of that on this page. So I can have this projected up in class after an assignment is due, and I can say, half of us missed this question 1. Let's take a look at that, an example of it, and clear up this misconception in real time as we're going through the process. Okay, so that kind of concludes our overview of what the courseware is capable of. Of course, it does about 1,000 things. And adaptability is a big part of our process. So if there's something that you didn't see or some idea that you have, I think that's where those individual conversations become really, really important. So at this point, we will look at a couple of questions, just a last chance to enter for the chance to win those Amazon gift cards. So I see a couple of questions here. First one, are any questions computational? For instance, how to calculate elasticity? So yes, so we take that same kind of method from our math discipline. And so those question types are free response. Students can enter in their answer and have the same explain error and step-by-step tutors that we demonstrated in the other question types there. See if I can pull up an example of this. So again, now I have a question where I can actually computate the value, have my tutor, which gives me a step-by-step walkthrough of how to approach this actual question. All right. And then the last question I see is, I know this is a long answer, but can you briefly show how I can create my own question? So I'm going to try and show this as succinctly as I can, because the cool thing about this tool is this is actually the same tool that our developers have access to. So you can create questions that are just as detailed and refined as what our stock questions are. So I'd come down here to my question builder, and I can really easily select what type of question. So I can make those multiple choice. I can make those click to selects. I can make those free response questions. Come in here. We're going to create a question. I put my question statement in, and then I can select what type of questions, multiple choice, free response, open-ended. I would put what answer would be accepted as correct. And then I can even program multiple answers, do advanced options. I can add tutor options. I can add explain error feedback. It's very full featured. And again, that's another place where our support team would be more than happy to show you through the process of building a question, getting it to work the exact way that you would want it to. All right, well, I think that about wraps up my portion of today's presentation. I think we have a couple of drawings to do. And then thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Perfect. Yeah. So as Austin said, we are just about out of time here. I do want to say a quick thank you to Austin for all the valuable information that you shared today. And as well, thank you for everyone who's attended this session and any of the other ones that you've attended today. We really do appreciate it. And now it is time for the giveaways, and these are our final spin and wins of the day. So each winner today will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, and we'll get started here in just a second. All right, so our first winner is, so we've got Anne-Marie. Congratulations. All right, and our second winner for today is Anne. Congratulations, Anne-Marie. All right, and our final spin and win winner for today is Joan. Congratulations. All right, so IES 2023 will continue tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with a virtual tour of the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Dublin. Very excited for that. More details and the full Friday schedule can be found on the conference website. Now, while accessing the conference website, please do not forget to swing by the virtual exhibit hall and say hello to the Hawks team. You can view a quick 5-minute demonstration, request your t-shirt, and be entered to win the hourly giveaway, which is your choice of a $50 Amazon gift card, a Ticketmaster gift card, or a Barnes & Noble gift card. So thanks again to everyone for joining us for day one of IES 2023, and we can't wait to see you all tomorrow.